The earthquake that hit Venezuela may be even more powerful than we initially thought. Not 7.2, not 7.5. A new scientific analysis suggests this could have been a single catastrophic magnitude 7.8, and that difference changes everything. I'm going to show you exactly why that number matters.
Very, very strong.
What the latest aerial footage reveals about the scale of destruction and what the survivors living through this right now are describing. Because the numbers alone do not capture what is happening on the ground in Caracas tonight. Stay with me. If you haven't seen my previous Venezuela video yet, it is linked at the end of this one. It has footage from inside the towers as they were shaking, the man running down the stairs, the airport damage, a landslide. Everything from the first hours. Watch that after this one.
Quakes hit hardest.
Now, let us talk about what we actually know. When this earthquake first hit, the USGS classified it as two separate strong earthquakes. The first, a magnitude 7.2. Then just 39 seconds later, a magnitude 7.5. Two strikes within less than a minute. But a new analysis from GEOSCOPE.
My brother, my sister-in-law, my niece, my nephew, and friends are in there.
Operated by the Institut de Physique du Globe de Paris, arrives at a very different conclusion. They say this was not two earthquakes. They say this was one single extraordinarily complex earthquake with a moment magnitude of 7.8. And I need to explain why that matters, because on the surface, 7.5 versus 7.8 sounds like a small difference. It is not. It is anything but small. On the magnitude scale, which is logarithmic, not linear, each step upward represents a massive jump in energy. So when you go from 7.5 to 7.8, the amplitude of the seismic waves, the actual ground shaking, is approximately 2 times stronger. 2 times. But the total energy released, that is where it gets truly staggering. A magnitude 7.8 releases roughly 2.8 times more energy than a 7.5. Nearly 3 times more energy tearing through the ground, through the foundations, through the walls of every building in its path. And when you look at what happened to Caracas, when you see the aerial footage I'm about to describe to you, that number starts to make horrifying sense. So how does a single earthquake get recorded as two? This is where the science gets fascinating, and I think it is important you understand it. In very large earthquakes, a fault does not always rupture in one clean, sudden movement. The rupture propagates. It travels along the fault line, sometimes over many seconds, sometimes over minutes. And as it travels, it can generate multiple strong pulses of energy. The ground shaking builds, peaks, drops slightly, then surges again. For automated earthquake detection systems, when those energy pulses are strong enough and distinct enough, the system can register them as separate events. That is what happened here. The USGS systems, which are designed for speed, for getting information out fast, initially logged 2 earthquakes 39 seconds apart. But GEOSCOPE's more detailed source time function analysis tells a different story. It shows several strong rupture pulses lasting approximately 2 minutes in total, propagating eastward along the northern Venezuelan fault zone. One continuous multi-phase rupture process. Not 2 earthquakes. One devastating, relentless, 2-minute-long event. And survivors' accounts match this perfectly. Multiple residents describe the shaking as feeling like one massive, long earthquake. One man said the world was moving for a very long time. He did not experience a break. He did not feel 2 distinct events. He felt the ground move and not stop. Now think about what 2 minutes of continuous violent shaking does to a building that was not designed to handle it. But before I get to the buildings, I want to take a moment to explain where this earthquake actually came from. Because Venezuela is not a country most people associate with major seismic risk. And that misunderstanding is part of why so many of these buildings were never built to survive something like this. Northern Venezuela sits along one of the most geologically complex and underappreciated fault systems in the Western Hemisphere. The boundary between the South American plate and the Caribbean plate runs directly through this region, right underneath some of the most densely populated areas of the country. This is not a quiet, stable continental interior. This is an active plate boundary that has been accumulating stress for decades. The specific fault system responsible for this earthquake runs roughly east to west along the northern coast of Venezuela. Geologists have known for a long time that this system is capable of producing large, dangerous earthquakes. The historical record makes that very clear, but knowledge of a hazard and preparation for it are two very different things. In Venezuela, the preparation never came. Buildings went up fast, often without proper engineering oversight, often with materials and construction methods that cut corners. And when a fault that has been locked and loading for generations finally moves, 2 minutes is more than enough time to reveal every single one of those shortcuts. We have seen the aerial footage. Helicopter flyovers of Caracas show block after block of collapsed towers and buildings so heavily damaged that they are still standing only because they have not yet fallen. They are not safe. They will come down. Engineers on the ground are already saying that a large portion of the damaged structures that are still vertical will need to be demolished, imploded, brought down in a controlled way, because they are too dangerous to repair and too dangerous to leave standing. This is not rebuilding a few damaged blocks. In the hardest hit areas of Caracas, we are talking about restarting entire neighborhoods from zero. Residents who lived through the shaking are now describing what those 2 minutes felt like from the inside. One man said he was in his apartment when he first noticed something. He thought it was a neighbor drilling, renovation work, construction noise, normal city sounds. Then he heard the windows begin to rattle, and he understood. He grabbed what he could and ran to the doorway, and then the second phase of shaking hit, stronger than anything before it, and he did not shelter. He ran, down the hallway, down the stairs, out of the building, because after what he knew about the 1967 earthquake that had destroyed Caracas once before, an earthquake he had grown up hearing about from his parents, he was not willing to stay inside. And I want to pause on 1967 for a moment, because that earthquake is important context that most people outside Venezuela do not know about. On July 29, 1967, a magnitude 6.5 earthquake struck just north of Caracas. It lasted approximately 30 seconds. In those 30 seconds, 4 high-rise apartment buildings collapsed completely. 270 people died. The city was traumatized. And in the aftermath, Venezuela introduced new seismic building codes, regulations designed to ensure that what happened in 1967 could never happen again. But regulations on paper and regulations in practice are not the same thing. Over the following decades, as Venezuela's political and economic situation deteriorated, enforcement of those building codes became inconsistent at best, corrupt at worst. Buildings went up anyway, people moved in, cities grew, and the fault underneath them kept loading. What we are seeing in Caracas right now is not just the result of one earthquake. It is the result of decades of decisions, and decades of decisions not made. Another resident described hearing an alarm on his phone, a brief uncomfortable pause, and then the building began to shake violently. His 3 dogs hid under the beds, trembling. He sheltered in a doorway and prayed. He said he heard concrete breaking off the walls around him. He said he thought he was going to die. And here's the thing. For people in those towers that collapsed, duck, cover, and hold on was not going to save them. When you see the footage of what these buildings look like afterward, there is no hiding place inside that survives. The people who made it out are the ones who ran. That is the reality of what happens when earthquake-resistant building codes do not exist, or are not enforced, or are built around corruption and shortcuts. I have said this before and I will keep saying it. Japan had a strong earthquake near Tokyo today, the same day as Venezuela. In Japan, no towers collapsed. In Venezuela, entire city blocks are gone. The difference is not the earthquake. The difference is decades of preparation, engineering, and building standards. That contrast should be a wake-up call for every city on Earth that sits near a fault line and has not invested in its infrastructure. And I say that as someone who lives on the Cascadia subduction zone, a fault system capable of a magnitude 9 or greater earthquake. Many of you watching this right now live in California, Oregon, Washington State, or British Columbia. You live near active faults. You watch these videos because somewhere in the back of your mind, you know that what is happening in Caracas right now is not just a distant tragedy. It is a preview. The question is not whether a major earthquake will hit the Pacific Northwest or California. The question is whether we will be more like Japan or more like Venezuela when it does. I am not saying that to frighten you. I am saying it because it is true, and because the people of Caracas deserve better than they got, and the least we can do is learn from what happened to them. Let me update you on the human cost, because these numbers are moving fast and they are moving in the wrong direction. When I started tracking this yesterday, the confirmed death toll was 188. As of now, we are at 235 confirmed dead and more than 4,300 people injured. But rescue teams are still working through collapsed structures, and officials have warned clearly that the numbers are expected to climb significantly. The USGS initially estimated the affected population in the range of 10,000 to potentially 100,000 people. Thousands are missing. Thousands more are sleeping in their cars or on the streets because they are too afraid and too smart to go back inside a building that may not survive an aftershock. And aftershocks are still happening. That is something I want you to understand, because aftershocks after a 7.8 are not small, forgettable tremors. Aftershocks following a major earthquake can themselves reach magnitude 6 or greater, and a magnitude 6 aftershock hitting a city full of already compromised buildings with cracked foundations, fractured load-bearing walls, weakened connections between floors, can finish what the main quake started. Buildings that survived the initial event may not survive the next one. That is why rescue operations in the immediate aftermath of a major earthquake are so extraordinarily dangerous. The ground is not done moving, the buildings are not done falling, and the people searching through the rubble know that. The situation on the ground is becoming critical in ways beyond the immediate search and rescue. Caracas's Simón Bolívar International Airport has been closed due to earthquake damage. I showed you that footage in my previous video. That closed airport is now creating a serious logistical crisis. Venezuelans living in the United States have been organizing aid, collecting supplies, trying to get help to their families, and they cannot get it in because the main gateway into the country is shut. Aid groups are warning that the earthquake is landing on top of an economy and a government services network that was already fragile before any of this happened. Clean water, medical supplies, sanitary infrastructure. These things degrade fast after a disaster. Nearby hospitals are already reporting that they are overwhelmed. The window to get critical aid in and save additional lives is not wide, and every hour the airport stays closed, that window gets smaller. Acting President Delcy Rodriguez has toured the affected areas and declared a state of emergency. Leaders from around the world have offered condolences and pledged support. The United States has announced $150 million in aid. And in a notable development, Turkey and Venezuela have spoken directly about assistance, which matters because Turkey lived through something comparable in 2023. The scale of destruction in southeastern Turkey after the February 2023 earthquakes looked like a war zone. Entire cities leveled. The experience that Turkey's rescue and recovery teams now carry is exactly the kind of expertise Venezuela needs right now. This is the strongest earthquake to hit Venezuela since 1900. If the GEOSCOPE analysis holds and the final magnitude is confirmed as 7.8, it will likely be reclassified as the most powerful earthquake in Venezuelan recorded history. Stronger than 1967. Stronger than anything in living memory for the people who survived it. I will keep updating you as the numbers change and as new analysis comes in. The USGS will take days, possibly longer, to complete a full source analysis and potentially revise their classification. That process takes time, but the people in Caracas do not have the luxury of waiting for the science to catch up. They need help now. If you want to help and you are looking for reputable organizations working on the ground, do your research, find established disaster relief organizations operating in Venezuela, and if you can contribute, please do. Our hearts go out to everyone affected. If you want to see more footage, the tower collapse videos, the man running down the stairs, the airport damage, the landslide, that is all in my previous video, linked right here at the end of this one. Go watch it, subscribe, and hit the bell if you are not already. I am updating this situation in real time, and the next video goes up the moment something significant changes. I will see you there.